Captain Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck of the space station New Horizon, watching the massive alien ships appear one by one in Earth's outer system. Each vessel was the size of a city, dark metal covered in strange symbols that glowed with red light. The largest ship sat in the center like a sleeping giant, easily 10 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. "How many are there now?" Jake asked, not taking his eyes off the alien fleet. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Rodriguez checked her tablet. 47 ships, sir. They stopped coming about an hour ago." Jake nodded slowly. 3 days ago, Earth's deep space sensors had picked up the first signals, strange energy readings that didn't match anything in their databases. Then the ships started appearing, dropping out of what looked like tiers in space itself. No warning, no communication, just arrival. "Any word from Earth Command?" "President Clark is calling an emergency meeting. General Bell wants all defense forces on high alert." Lisa paused. "Sir, what do you think they want?" Before Jake could answer, every screen on the station flickered. The normal blue interface disappeared, replaced by an image that made everyone in the room step back. A massive creature filled the screen, easily 8 feet tall with dark green scales and yellow eyes that seemed to burn with inner fire. Its head was shaped like a dragon from old Earth stories, but this thing was very real. "People of Earth," the creature spoke, its voice deep and rough like grinding stone. "I am War King Thaxos of the Zephyrian Empire. We have traveled far to reach your small world." Jake felt his heart beating faster. First contact with alien life, and it was happening right here, right now. Around the station, he could see other crew members stopping their work to watch the screens. "Your species has been observed," Thaxos continued. "We have studied your history, your wars, your conflicts. You fight among yourselves like children fighting over toys. You have no unity, no true strength. You are weak." Lisa stepped closer to Jake. "Sir, this doesn't sound like a friendly visit." The alien king leaned forward and Jake could see rows of sharp teeth. "The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 47 worlds. Each world was given the same choice we now offer you. Submit to our rule and become part of our empire, or face us in combat and be destroyed." The image changed, showing scenes of alien worlds. Cities burning, strange creatures running in panic, massive ships like the ones outside Earth dropping weapons from the sky. Then the scene shifted again, showing other worlds where different alien species worked alongside the Zephyrians, building ships and weapons. "But we are not without honor," Thaxos said. "We do not simply destroy those who might serve us, we offer combat trials. Send your 3 greatest warriors to face our 3 greatest champions. If your warriors win, Earth will be allowed to exist as a free world, though you will pay tribute to our empire. If your warriors lose, your world belongs to us completely." Jake clenched his fists. "Tribute or slavery, some choice. You have 7 of your Earth days to decide," the alien king continued. "Choose your warriors well. Our champions have never been defeated. Vex the Destroyer has killed over 1,000 enemies in single combat. Kryn the Butcher has conquered 12 worlds by himself. Zal the Bonebreaker has never let an enemy live long enough to beg for mercy." The screen showed brief images of the 3 alien champions. Each one was massive, covered in scars and wearing armor that looked like it was made from the bones of their enemies. They looked like monsters from humanity's worst nightmares. "We will wait for your answer," Thaxos said. "But know this, humans. We have watched your species for many cycles. You are divided, weak, without honor. Your greatest warriors are nothing compared to our weakest soldiers. This combat trial is merely a formality. Your world will be ours." The screen went black, leaving the station in silence. Dr. Peter Hayes, the station's chief scientist, was the first to speak. "Well, that was terrifying." Jake turned to Lisa. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command. Now." "Already working on it, sir." She tapped her tablet quickly. "Connection established." A new screen appeared, showing President Adam Clark sitting in the Oval Office. General Catherine Bell stood behind him, her face grim. Both looked like they hadn't slept in days. "Captain Morrison," the president said, "I assume you saw the broadcast?" "Yes, sir. The whole station did. I'm guessing it went out worldwide?" "Every screen on Earth showed it," General Bell replied. "TV, computers, phones, everything. They wanted to make sure everyone got the message." "What's our response, sir?" President Clark leaned back in his chair. "That's what we're trying to figure out. Our best military analysts are studying the alien ships. So far, they're not showing any weak points." Dr. Hayes stepped forward. "Mr. President, I've been analyzing the alien speech patterns and body language. I think there's something important we're missing." "Go ahead, Doctor." "They're overconfident. Dangerously so. This War King Thaxos, he's not just arrogant. He's made assumptions about us that might not be accurate. He said they've studied our history, but I don't think they understand what they've been looking at." General Bell frowned. "What do you mean?" "They see our conflicts and wars as signs of weakness. They think because we fight among ourselves we're not capable of real military organization, but that's not how it works. Our wars have made us better fighters, not worse ones." Jake nodded slowly. "The doctor might be onto something. These aliens talk about honor and formal combat trials, but human warfare isn't about honor. It's about winning." "Exactly," Dr. Hayes continued. "They have 3 champions who've never been defeated, but they've only fought other alien species who probably follow similar rules. They've never faced humans who don't care about fighting fair." President Clark looked interested. "You think we have a chance?" "I think we have more than a chance," Jake said. "But we need to be smart about this. If we're going to fight these trials, we can't pick our fighters the way they expect us to." Lisa had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up. "Sir, what if the trials aren't really about the fighting? What if they're about something else?" "Like what?" "Information. If we agree to the trials, we get to see their technology up close. We get to study their fighters, their weapons, their tactics. Maybe the real fight isn't going to be in some arena. Maybe it's going to be what comes after." General Bell smiled for the first time since the conversation started. "Captain Morrison, I think your people might have just figured out how to save the world." Jake looked out at the alien fleet again. The ships hung in space like sleeping predators, waiting for Earth's answer. But now, instead of fear, he felt something else. These aliens thought they knew humans. They thought they understood what humanity was capable of. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Mr. President," Jake said, "I think we should accept their challenge." The president raised an eyebrow. "You have a plan?" "The beginning of one. But it's going to require us to think like humans, not like these Zephyrians. We need to stop thinking about honor and start thinking about survival." "And if the plan doesn't work?" Jake looked at the alien ships one more time. 47 vessels filled with creatures that had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced Earth. They had never faced humans who had spent thousands of years learning how to fight wars. "Then we'll improvise," he said. "That's what humans do best." President Adam Clark stood in the secure conference room deep beneath the White House. Around the long table sat the most important people in Earth's government and military. General Catherine Bell had her tablet open, showing profiles of candidates. CIA Director Paul Grant looked through classified files. Secretary of Defense Carol Swift tapped her fingers nervously on the table. "We have less than 4 days to make our choice," Clark said. "The whole world is watching. Every news channel is talking about nothing else. People are scared." "They should be scared," General Bell replied. "These aliens have weapons we can't even understand. Their smallest ship could probably destroy New York City." Dr. Peter Hayes, who had been flown in from the space station, cleared his throat. "Mr. President, I've been studying the alien broadcast more carefully. I think I understand what kind of species we're dealing with." "Go ahead, Doctor." "The Zephyrians are what we might call honor-bound warriors. Everything about their culture seems to revolve around formal combat and rigid rules. War King Thaxos mentioned that their champions have never been defeated, but I think that's because they've only fought enemies who follow the same rules they do." Secretary Swift leaned forward. "What kind of rules?" "Single combat, probably with specific weapons, maybe even specific fighting styles. Think of it like medieval knights having tournaments, very formal, very organized, very predictable. CIA Director Grant nodded. Our intelligence suggests something similar. We've been monitoring their communications, and they keep talking about proper combat and honorable victory. They seem genuinely confused by human warfare tactics. President Clark looked around the table. So what are you all suggesting? General Bell stood up and walked to the large screen on the wall. Pictures of soldiers appeared, all in full military dress with rows of medals and ribbons. These are our best fighters. Colonel Mike Stevens, Navy SEAL with 43 confirmed kills. Major Linda Parker, Marine Force Recon, survived 3 tours in hostile territory. Commander Rick Davis, Special Forces, expert in hand-to-hand combat. They look impressive, the president said. They are impressive. Any one of them could probably beat most humans in a fair fight. But here's the problem. General Bell changed the display to show the alien champions again. These things are 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor, and have claws that could cut through steel. In a straight fight, even our best people would lose. Dr. Hayes smiled slightly. Which is exactly why we shouldn't send our best people. Everyone in the room turned to look at him. Explain that, President Clark said. The aliens expect us to send our most decorated soldiers. They're prepared for that. But what if we send people who don't fight like soldiers at all? What if we send people who fight like humans? Secretary Swift frowned. I don't understand the difference. Soldiers follow rules even in combat. They have training, discipline, established tactics. But regular humans who have been in real fights, they don't care about rules. They care about winning and staying alive. CIA Director Grant pulled out another file. I think I know where you're going with this. We've been looking at some unusual candidates. The screen changed to show 3 very different pictures. The first was a man in work clothes and a hard hat. The second was a woman in medical scrubs. The third was an older man in a teacher's jacket. Danny Murphy, age 34, construction worker from Chicago, Grant began. Served 2 tours in Afghanistan as an infantry soldier before leaving the military. No decorations, no special recognition, but his squad leaders said he was the kind of guy who always came home when others didn't. General Bell looked skeptical. A construction worker? Keep listening, Grant continued. Helen Carter, age 31, emergency room nurse from Dallas. Before nursing school, she spent 6 years as a combat medic. Served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. Medical personnel aren't supposed to fight, but her record shows she killed 7 enemy soldiers while protecting wounded Americans. And the third one? Frank Johnson, age 56, high school history teacher from Portland. Before teaching, he spent 20 years as a Navy SEAL. Retired quietly, no fanfare, no book deals. Just went back to civilian life. His former teammates say he was the most dangerous man they ever served with. President Clark studied the pictures. These people don't look like champions. That's the point, Dr. Hayes said. The aliens are expecting champions. They're expecting people who fight for glory and honor. But these 3 people have something more important. Which is? They fight to survive, and they fight to protect. Others? General Bell was still uncertain. Mr. President, with respect, we're talking about the survival of the human race. Shouldn't we send our absolute best fighters? Our absolute best fighters are trained to fight other humans, Grant replied. These 3 have fought real battles where the rules didn't matter, where honor got you killed and cleverness kept you alive. Dr. Hayes pulled up another display showing psychological profiles. Look at their test results. Danny Murphy scores off the charts for adaptability and creative problem solving. Helen Carter has the fastest reaction times we've ever recorded, plus medical knowledge that could be crucial in combat. Frank Johnson has tactical knowledge combined with real-world experience that our current soldiers can't match. Plus, Grant added, they're volunteers. We approached them yesterday, explained the situation. All 3 said yes immediately. President Clark was quiet for a long moment, studying the files. What makes you think this will work? Because the aliens have made a fundamental mistake about humans, Dr. Hayes explained. They think our conflicts make us weak. They see our wars and assume we're chaotic and undisciplined. But human warfare has actually made us incredibly adaptable. We've learned to fight in every environment, against every kind of enemy, with every kind of weapon. And these three represent that. They represent something the aliens have never encountered. Humans who don't care about fighting fair. Humans who will use every advantage, every dirty trick, every piece of knowledge they have to win. Secretary Swift looked worried. What if they lose anyway? These alien champions have never been defeated. Then we learn everything we can from watching the fights, General Bell said, finally understanding the plan. We study their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. The trials aren't just about winning 3 fights. They're about gathering intelligence for the real war that might come later. CIA Director Grant nodded. We'll have sensors recording everything, every weapon they use, every move they make, every weakness they show. Win or lose, we'll know more about them than they know about us. President Clark made his decision. Contact these 3 people. Tell them they have the full support of the United States government. Tell them they're not just fighting for America, they're fighting for the entire human race. Yes, sir. And General Bell? I want every military analyst. We have studying those fights. If our people lose, I want to know exactly why and exactly how to prevent it from happening again. Understood, Mr. President. Dr. Hayes had one more thing to add. Sir, there's something else we should consider. The aliens chose to have these trials instead of just attacking us immediately. That suggests they might have rules they have to follow, or maybe they're not as confident as they pretend to be. You think they're afraid of us? I think they're curious about us. And curiosity is something we can use. Meanwhile, on the flagship of the Zephyrian fleet, War King Thaxos received word that the humans had made their choice. He looked at the images of the 3 human fighters and laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. These are their champions? He asked his advisor, a smaller alien with silver scales. A worker, a healer, and an old man? Perhaps they have hidden strengths, my lord, the advisor suggested carefully. Hidden strengths? Thaxos laughed again. Look at them. They are small, weak, pathetic. This will be over quickly. The advisor hesitated. My lord, should we perhaps study these humans more carefully? Their choice seems strange. Their choice proves what we already knew. Humans are weak and foolish. They send their weakest because they know their strongest would still lose. This is not strategy, it is surrender. Thaxos turned to look at Earth through the massive viewing window of his ship. The blue and green world hung in space like a jewel, unaware of how close it was to destruction. Prepare the arena, he commanded, and summon our champions. This will be a quick lesson in Zephyrian superiority. But as the alien king made his preparations, he did not notice the small human ships moving quietly through the asteroid belt beyond his fleet. He did not see the sensors and recording equipment being positioned for the coming trials. He did not understand that the humans were already fighting a different kind of war. The aliens were about to learn that humans had been preparing for this moment their entire history. Every war, every conflict, every battle had taught them something new about survival. And survival was something humans did very, very well. The arena station floated in neutral space between Earth and the Zephyrian fleet. It was a massive structure that the aliens had built in just 2 days, big enough to hold 3 separate fighting areas and thousands of spectators. War King Thaxos sat on a throne made of black metal, watching as his 3 champions prepared for battle. Vex the Destroyer stood 9 feet tall with dark red scales covering his body. His arms were longer than a human's entire body, ending in claws that could cut through steel. Kryn the Butcher was slightly smaller but twice as wide, with thick armor-like skin and teeth that looked like broken glass. Zal the Bonebreaker had scars covering every inch of his body, each one representing an enemy he had killed. Look at the human champions, Thaxos said to his advisor, pointing at the 3 humans standing on the other side of the arena. They look like they should be serving food, not fighting wars. Danny Murphy stood with his hands in his pockets, looking around the arena like he was inspecting a construction site. He wore simple work clothes and steel-toed boots. Helen Carter checked her small medical bag one more time, her nurse's training, making her prepare for every possibility. Frank Johnson read a book, completely calm, as if he was waiting for a bus instead of fighting for humanity's survival. "My lord," the advisor whispered, "something feels wrong about this." "Why do the humans look so relaxed?" "Because they know they are going to die," Thaxos replied. "They have accepted their fate. On Earth, billions of people watched on every screen available. In bars, homes, offices, and schools, humans stopped everything to see their species' fate decided." President Clark sat in the Situation Room with his advisors, all of them silent with tension. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the space station New Horizon, with Dr. Peter Hayes and Lisa Rodriguez beside him. Hidden sensors throughout the arena would record everything, but right now all they could do was wait and hope. "First combat," announced the Zephyrian Herald, his voice echoing through the arena. "Vex the Destroyer versus the human called Danny Murphy." Danny walked to the center of the first fighting area, a circular space about 50 feet across with walls 20 feet high. The floor was made of some kind of metal, and scattered around were various weapons that both fighters could use. Swords, clubs, spears, and things that humans had never seen before. Vex the Destroyer entered from the opposite side, his claws scraping against the metal floor with each step. The alien crowd cheered, expecting a quick and brutal victory. "Begin!" the herald shouted. Vex immediately charged forward, moving faster than something his size should have been able to move. His claws reached for Danny's head, ready to end the fight in seconds. Danny stepped to the side at the last moment, not away from the alien, but closer to the wall. Vex's claws hit the metal wall with a sound like thunder, and the alien roared in surprise and pain. "What is he doing?" General Bell asked, watching from Earth. Danny didn't try to fight the alien directly. Instead, he grabbed one of the scattered weapons, not a sword or spear, but a long chain with weights on both ends. He wrapped it around a piece of the arena's structure and pulled, testing its strength. Vex turned around, angry now, and charged again. This time, Danny was ready. He swung, the chain at the alien's feet, tangling them up. Vex crashed to the ground with a sound that shook the entire arena. Before the alien could get up, Danny climbed onto one of the higher structures in the arena, using his construction experience to find the best footholds. He wasn't trying to fight like a warrior. He was treating this like a dangerous job site where safety came first. "Coward!" Vex roared in the alien language. "Fight with honor!" Danny didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. He smiled and shook his head. Then he did something that shocked everyone watching. He started taking apart the arena itself. Using tools he found scattered around, Danny began removing bolts and supports from the structure above Vex. Pieces of metal began falling toward the alien, who had to dodge and roll to avoid being crushed. "Impossible," Thaxos whispered. "He's using the arena as a weapon." "That's not allowed," the advisor protested. "Actually," Thaxos said slowly, "the rules only forbid bringing weapons from outside. Everything in the arena is fair to use." Danny continued his work, methodically weakening the structure above Vex. The alien tried to climb up to reach him, but Danny had chosen his position carefully. Every time Vex got close, more metal fell, forcing him back down. Finally, Danny finished his preparations. He triggered the collapse of an entire section of the arena's upper level. Tons of metal crashed down, trapping Vex beneath. The alien wasn't dead, but he couldn't move. Danny climbed down and walked over to where the alien's head stuck out from under the debris. He picked up a simple metal bar and held it like a club. "Yield," he said simply. Vex looked into Danny's eyes and saw something that made him afraid. This human wasn't angry or excited, he was just doing a job, and he would finish it whether Vex surrendered or not. "I yield," Vex said in English. The arena fell completely silent. "Second combat," the herald announced, his voice shaking slightly. Kryn the Butcher versus the human called Helen Carter. Helen walked into the second arena, which was set up differently from the first. This one had obstacles and barriers scattered throughout, creating a maze-like environment. She carried only her small medical bag. Kryn the Butcher was confident. He had watched the first fight and decided the human had simply been lucky. He would not make the same mistakes as Vex. "Begin." Kryn moved more carefully than his partner had. using the barriers for cover and trying to corner Helen. But Helen moved through the maze like she had been there before, always staying just out of reach. "She's using medical knowledge," Dr. Hayes observed from the space station. "Look at how she moves. She's studying him like a patient." Helen wasn't trying to attack Kryn directly. Instead, she was watching how he moved, how he breathed, how he reacted to different situations. Her medical training had taught her to observe everything about a body's condition. When Kryn finally cornered her behind a large barrier, Helen was ready. As he reached around to grab her, she jabbed a small medical device into his wrist. It was just a simple injection device, but she had filled it with a sedative from her medical bag. Kryn roared and swung at her, but his movements were already getting slower. Helen rolled away and waited. She had calculated the correct dose based on his estimated body weight and metabolism. Within minutes, Kryn collapsed, unconscious but alive. "I am a healer," Helen said to the shocked alien crowd. "I don't kill if I don't have to." "Third combat," the herald announced, now clearly nervous. Zal the Bone Breaker versus the human called Frank Johnson. Frank closed his book and walked calmly into the third arena. This one was the largest, with multiple levels and various types of terrain. Zal the Bone Breaker waited in the center, confident that his experience would overcome whatever tricks these humans had. "Begin." Frank didn't move immediately. Instead, he studied the arena layout for a full minute while Zal waited, growing impatient. "Are you going to fight or not, old human?" Zal called out. Frank smiled. "I'm 66 years old. I've been fighting longer than you've been alive. But first I need to understand the battlefield." Then Frank did something that demonstrated 40 years of military experience. He began moving through the arena, not like he was fighting one opponent, but like he was conducting a military operation. He used every level, every obstacle, every piece of equipment available. When Zal tried to follow him to higher ground, Frank had already moved to a different position. When Zal tried to corner him, Frank had already planned 3 escape routes. "He's not fighting," Lisa Rodriguez observed. "He's teaching." Frank was demonstrating something that the Zephyrians had never seen before. Human military tactics applied to individual combat. He treated Zal not like an honorable opponent, but like an enemy force that needed to be neutralized. After 20 minutes of this cat-and-mouse game, Zal was exhausted and frustrated. He had been chasing Frank all around the arena without landing a single hit. Frank finally stopped running. He stood in the center of the arena and waited. "Now I'll fight," he said quietly. Zal charged one more time, putting everything he had into a final attack. Frank stepped aside at the last second and used Zal's own momentum against him, a move so simple and perfect that it looked like dancing. Zal hit the arena wall hard and slid to the ground unconscious. War King Thaxos stood up from his throne, his face showing an emotion his species rarely felt: fear. All 3 human champions had won, but more importantly, they had won in ways that the Zephyrians couldn't understand or predict. They hadn't fought with honor or glory. They had fought like humans, using every advantage available and caring only about results. "This is impossible," Thaxos whispered. "Our champions have never been defeated, my lord," the advisor said carefully. "Perhaps we have underestimated these humans. On Earth, celebrations began in every city. But in the secure rooms where Earth's leaders watched, there was no celebration yet. They knew this was just the beginning." "He's going to be angry now," President Clark said, watching Thaxos on the screen. "Yes, sir. And angry aliens with massive fleets are dangerous." Captain Morrison nodded grimly. "The real fight is about to begin." War King Thaxos smashed his fist against the arm of his throne, cracking the black metal. Around him, his advisors stepped back in fear. The alien king's yellow eyes burned with rage as he watched the 3 human champions being celebrated on the arena floor below. "This is not possible," he roared. "Our champions do not lose, they have never lost." His chief advisor, General Krex, approached carefully. "My lord, perhaps we should honor the agreement. The humans won the trials fairly." Thaxos turned his burning gaze on Krex. "Fairly? They cheated. They used tricks and cowardice instead of fighting with honor. This was not true combat. But my lord, the rules said they could use anything in the arena. They followed the rules exactly. The rules were made for honorable species, not these sneaking humans. Thaxo stood up, his massive form towering over everyone in the room. I declare the trials invalid. Prepare the fleet for attack. We will take this world by force. General Krex looked uncomfortable. My lord, if we break our own sacred combat laws, what will the other species in our empire think? Some might rebel. Let them try, Thaxo snarled. Fear is better than respect. When we destroy Earth, every world in our empire will remember what happens to those who defy us. On the arena station, Danny Murphy, Helen Carter, and Frank Johnson were being escorted back to their transport ship by Zephyrian guards. The aliens moved nervously, clearly shaken by what they had witnessed. Frank noticed the guards talking quietly among themselves in their own language. His military experience had taught him to read body language, and these aliens were scared. Something's wrong, he whispered to the others. These guards are acting like they expect trouble. Helen checked her medical scanner, a device she had been allowed to keep. Their heart rates are elevated, blood pressure high. They're definitely stressed about something. Danny looked around the station they were walking through. This place has good bones, but I'm seeing a lot of structural weak points. If someone wanted to damage this station, it wouldn't be hard. Before any of them could say more, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and the guards suddenly raised their weapons. What's happening? Helen asked. One of the guards, who spoke broken English, looked at them with what might have been sympathy. War King angry. He says trials not count. He attacks your world now. On Earth, President Clark received the news in the Situation Room. General Bell burst through the door, her face pale. Sir, we're detecting massive energy buildup from the alien fleet. They're powering weapons. They're breaking their own agreement? Yes, sir. And it gets worse. Our deep space sensors show the fleet moving toward Earth. Estimated arrival time is 6 hours. Dr. Peter Hayes was already at his computer, analyzing the data. Mr. President, this might actually be what we were hoping for. Everyone in the room turned to look at him. Explain that, Doctor. The combat trials weren't really about winning 3 fights. They were about studying the enemy. For the past week, our hidden sensors have been recording everything about their technology, their weapons, their ship designs. Secretary of Defense Carol Swift leaned forward. What did we learn? Everything, General Bell said, pulling up displays on the main screen. Dr. Sandra Price and engineer Tony Martinez have been analyzing the data nonstop. We know how their shields work, how their weapons charge, how their ships move. And more importantly, Dr. Hayes added, we know they're not as advanced as they pretend to be. Their technology is powerful but simple. They rely on brute force instead of sophisticated tactics. President Clark studied the information on the screens. So what's our move? We spring the trap we've been setting up, General Bell replied. For the past week, while everyone was watching the combat trials, we've been positioning assets throughout the solar system. The main screen changed to show a map of space around Earth. What looked like empty space was actually filled with small dots representing hidden ships and weapons platforms. Commander Rick Stone has been leading a fleet of stealth ships behind the asteroid belt. Major Amy Phillips has been setting up weapon platforms disguised as space debris. Colonel Steve Baker has been coordinating with every military unit on Earth. How many ships do we have? The president asked. Not as many as them, General Bell admitted. But we don't need more ships. We need better tactics. On the space station New Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison received his orders directly from Earth. Command. He looked around at his crew, all of them waiting for instructions. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced over the station's communication system, this is what we've been preparing for. In 6 hours, the largest alien fleet in known history will arrive at Earth. Our job is to make sure they regret that decision. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Rodriguez pulled up tactical displays. Sir, we're receiving positioning data from the hidden fleet. Commander Stone's ships are in position behind the asteroids. The weapon platforms are active and waiting. What about the aliens currently at the arena station? They're staying put for now, probably waiting to see what happens with the main fleet. Dr. Hayes had been monitoring alien communications. "Captain, I'm picking up interesting chatter from the Zephyrian ships. It sounds like some of their officers are questioning War King Thaxos's decision to break the combat agreement. Internal dissent? Possibly. Their society seems built around honor and following rules. Breaking their own sacred combat laws is causing problems." Jake smiled grimly. "Good. Confused enemies make mistakes." Meanwhile, in the hidden fleet behind the asteroid belt, Commander Rick Stone briefed his pilots over encrypted communications. His force consisted of 50 small, fast ships that had been designed specifically for this kind of operation. "Remember, we're not trying to win a straight fight," Stone said. "We're trying to hurt them, confuse them, and make them angry. Angry enemies don't think clearly." Lieutenant Maria Santos, piloting one of the stealth fighters, checked her weapon systems. "Sir, what's our primary target?" "Their command ship. The big one in the center where War King Thaxos is sitting. We're not trying to destroy it, just damage it enough to disrupt their communications and coordination." Sergeant Carl Brooks, commanding a group of the weapon platforms, added his own observations. "Sir, I've been watching their fleet formation. They're flying in a pattern that's impressive looking but tactically stupid. They're all clustered together like they're in a parade." "Perfect," Stone replied. "That means when we hit them, the damage will spread. Back on Earth, in military bases, around the world, soldiers and pilots prepared for what might be humanity's last battle, but they weren't preparing to fight like the aliens expected. General Bell had spent years studying human military history, learning from every war and every conflict. The plan she had developed didn't rely on matching the aliens' firepower. Instead, it used tactics that humans had been perfecting for thousands of years. "The aliens fight like ancient warriors," she explained to her staff. "Honor, formal battles, predictable tactics. But we've moved beyond that. We fight like modern humans." Colonel Steve Baker coordinated with units across the globe. Every military base, every ship, every aircraft is now part of a single network. When the aliens arrive, they won't be fighting individual units, they'll be fighting the entire human race working together. As the alien fleet approached Earth, War King Thaxos stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident that his show of force would terrify the humans into surrender. "My lord," General Krex reported, "we will reach Earth orbit in 2 hours. Should we demand their surrender first?" "No," Thaxos replied. "We will attack immediately. These humans have embarrassed us enough. It's time to show them the price of defying the Zephyrian Empire." But as the alien fleet moved through space, they passed through what appeared to be empty regions filled only with asteroids and debris. They didn't notice the small human ships hiding in the shadows. They didn't see the weapon platforms disguised as floating rocks. They didn't realize they were flying directly into a trap that had been designed by a species that had spent millennia learning how to hunt. "Contact in 30 minutes, the alien navigator reported. "Excellent," Thaxos said. "Today, Earth learns what happens to worlds that resist us. Hidden throughout the solar system, human forces waited patiently. This was the moment they had been preparing for since the aliens first arrived. The combat trials had been just the beginning. Now came the real test of human ingenuity, determination, and refusal to accept defeat. The hunt was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea they had just become the prey." The Zephyrian fleet entered Earth's solar system like a storm of metal and fire. 47 massive ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging with energy that could destroy entire cities. War King Thaxos stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on his screens. "Beautiful world," he said to General Krex. "It will make a fine addition to our empire once we remove the humans." "My lord," the navigation officer reported, "we are detecting some unusual readings in the asteroid belt behind us." Thaxos barely glanced at the display. "Space debris. Focus on the target ahead." But the readings weren't debris. Hidden among the asteroids, Commander Rick Stone gave the signal his pilots had been waiting for. "All units, this is Stone. Execute Operation Swarm. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and get out." 50 small human ships burst from their hiding places. moving faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. They didn't attack the alien ships directly. Instead, they targeted specific points that Dr. Sandra Price and engineer Tony Martinez had identified as critical weaknesses. The first wave of human fighters struck the rear ships of the alien formation. Small explosions bloomed across alien hulls as the humans hit communication arrays, sensor clusters, and weapon control systems. The aliens weren't being destroyed, but they were being blinded and confused. "What is this?" Thaxos roared as alarms filled his bridge. "Where did these ships come from?" Unknown, my lord," General Krex replied, struggling to understand the tactical displays. "They appear to be very small craft, attacking our rear formation." "Destroy them." But the human ships were already gone, vanishing back into the asteroid field before the aliens could target them effectively. The Zephyrian fleet tried to turn and pursue, but their massive ships were too slow and too big to follow. "Damage report," Thaxos demanded. "No ships destroyed, my lord, but 7 vessels have lost communications. 3 have damaged sensors. The fleet formation is disrupted." Before Thaxos could respond, the second phase of the human attack began. Weapon platforms that had been disguised as floating debris throughout the solar system suddenly came to life. They had been positioned over weeks, waiting for exactly this moment. Sergeant Carl Brooks coordinated the platform attack from his hidden command post on one of Jupiter's moons. "All platforms, target their engines. We don't want to destroy them yet, we want to trap them." Beams of energy struck the alien ships from dozens of directions. The platforms weren't powerful enough to penetrate alien shields completely, but they didn't need to be. They were targeting specific systems that engineer Tony Martinez had identified during the combat trials. Within minutes, half the alien fleet found their engines running at reduced power. Their formation, already disrupted by the fighter attack, began to fall apart completely. "Impossible," Thaxos snarled. "How did they know where to hit us?" General Krex was studying the attack patterns on his screen. "My lord, these humans seem to know exactly how our ships work. They're hitting us in places that shouldn't be vulnerable." "Because they studied us," Thaxos realized with growing horror. "The combat trials. They were learning about us the entire time." On Earth, President Adam Clark watched the battle from the Situation Room. General Catherine Bell coordinated with units around the globe while Dr. Peter Hayes monitored alien communications. "Phase 1 and 2 complete," General Bell reported. "The alien fleet is damaged and confused, ready for Phase 3. "Do it," the President ordered. Colonel Steve Baker, commanding Earth's remaining military forces, launched the final phase of the human plan. Every ship, every aircraft, every weapon system on Earth activated at once. But they didn't head straight for the alien fleet. Instead, they surrounded the aliens completely. Ships came from behind the moon. Aircraft rose from Earth's atmosphere, and weapon platforms that had been hidden throughout the solar system revealed themselves. In minutes, the Zephyrian fleet found themselves trapped in the center of a sphere of human forces. "We're surrounded," General Krex reported, his voice shaking. Thaxos looked at the tactical display in disbelief. Thousands of small human craft had appeared from everywhere, surrounding his mighty fleet like insects surrounding a trapped animal. "How many ships do they have?" he demanded. "Unknown, my lord. Our sensors are damaged, but there appear to be far more than we estimated." Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the operation from Space Station New Horizon, opened a communication channel to the alien flagship. "War King Thaxos," Jake's voice echoed through the alien bridge. "This is Captain Morrison of Earth Defense Forces. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now and your lives will be spared." Thaxos laughed, but it sounded forced. "You think your tiny ships can threaten the Zephyrian Empire? We have conquered 47 worlds." "And now you're about to lose to the 48th, Jake replied calmly. "You made a mistake, Thaxos. You thought humans were weak because we fight among ourselves. But those fights taught us something you never learned." "What?" "How to win against impossible odds." Jake gave another signal, and the human forces began closing in. But they still weren't trying to destroy the alien ships. Instead, they targeted specific systems with surgical precision, shutting down weapons, engines, and life support one system at a time. The battle, if it could even be called, that was over in 30 minutes. The mighty Zephyrian fleet that had conquered dozens of worlds was disabled by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive and weak. "My lord," General Krex said quietly, "we have lost. Our weapons are offline, engines are dead, and life support is failing on 12 ships. We must surrender." Thaxo stared at the screens showing thousands of human ships surrounding his helpless fleet. For the first time in his life, the great War King felt something he had never experienced before. Defeat. "Open communication channels," he said finally. Jake Morrison appeared on the alien bridge's main screen. "Ready to surrender, Thaxos?" "What are your terms?" the alien king asked through gritted teeth. "Simple. You and your surviving forces will be taken prisoner. Your ships will be studied, and you personally will be brought to Earth to face trial for breaking your own sacred combat laws." "Trial? We do not recognize human law." "You will," Jake said with a cold smile. "Because human law is the only law that matters in this solar system now." 3 days later, the streets of New York City witnessed something that would be remembered for generations. War King Thaxos, the mighty ruler who had conquered 47 worlds, walked down Fifth Avenue in chains. The alien king had been stripped of his armor and royal symbols. He wore simple prison clothes and metal restraints that kept his claws harmless. On either side of him walked human guards, ordinary soldiers who looked tiny next to the 8-foot alien, but who had helped defeat his entire empire. Millions of people lined the streets, watching in silence as the former king passed by. This wasn't a celebration or a parade. It was something more profound. It was proof that no tyrant, no matter how powerful, was beyond the reach of justice. Danny Murphy, Helen Carter, and Frank Johnson walked behind Thaxos, representing the ordinary humans who had started the aliens' downfall. They weren't treated as heroes or champions. They were just people who had done their jobs when their world needed them. President Clark stood on the steps of City Hall, waiting to address both species. Behind him stood the leaders of every nation on Earth, united in a way they had never been before. "Today," Clark began, his voice broadcast across Earth and to the captured alien ships, "we demonstrate something important. Power without justice is tyranny. Strength without honor is weakness. The Zephyrian Empire conquered worlds through fear, but fear is not a foundation that can last forever." Thaxos was forced to listen as Clark continued. "War King Thaxos, you came to Earth expecting to find weak, divided people who would bow to your strength. Instead, you found something your empire never encountered before. You found humans who refused to accept that might makes right." The former king was led to a podium where he was expected to speak. For a moment, he remained silent, his yellow eyes scanning the crowd of humans who had defeated him. "I do not understand," he said finally. "We offered you a place in our empire. We offered you the honor of serving the strongest military force in the galaxy. Why did you choose war?" Dr. Peter Hayes stepped forward to answer. "Because you never offered us a choice at all. Join your empire or die. Serve you or be destroyed. That's not an offer, that's a threat. And humans have never responded well to threats." President Clark nodded. "Thaxos, you have 2 options now. You can spend the rest of your life in prison, or you can help us repair the damage your empire has caused throughout the galaxy. You can help us free the worlds you conquered and build something better. You would trust me to help you?" "We would give you the chance to earn that trust," Clark replied. "That's what humans do. We believe people can change, even former tyrants." 6 months later, on a world called Kepler 442b that had been enslaved by the Zephyrian Empire for 50 years, former War King Thaxos worked alongside human engineers to rebuild the cities his forces had destroyed. Janet Mills, a construction engineer from Detroit, handed him a tool. "Keep working on that foundation, Thaxos. We need it solid if we're going to build schools here." The former alien king, now just another worker in the rebuilding effort, nodded quietly.